Hey man, so I was just gonna walk you through the some of these data files that I added. I figured it'd be easier if I just send this video. Um, I presume you've got an RStudio and R downloaded. I think you mentioned you had, and if you pull it up, it should just be a blank screen. But you might already know all this. But this is just a script file where all the code will stay, and it's saved right here. I have this as an R project, so all my files are in the same folder. Every time I open this R project file, it'll open up my script and anything that I've loaded in here in the global environment. And I can switch between projects, but you can do this new project button will allow you to create a new project as a subdirectory wherever you want it. You can see I have mine in Dropbox under Reputation Rape Impact. Oh, actually, since this is Dropbox, you should have these files, so you can really just click my reputation.rproj file, and it'll open up everything. I got to remess with this code because I renamed some data files, but I just sort of wanted to show you what we're looking at so far. So these pieces of code in line 8 and 9 still work fine. Let me run this. And so in the JC files, these are the 301 firms that we have all the COVID data on, and those 78 variables. That's the COVID file. So these are all 0, 1 COVID. We basically recoded them 0, 1 from being they were blanks and yeses mostly, or they had some value like this. 0 or just represents a blank cell where they didn't. This JC company had not recorded that they did anything for COVID. And I've got ticker and company names there. So that's those. That's those, and you can look at the all the way through. But it's basically just all COVID data. Yes or no, did they respond? Pretty much 0, 1. The rankings data, that's what you know already. And the way this works is there's a ticker, and I can add company name if we want, but that's the 1,000 companies, or give or take 1,045 because they changed a little bit from year to year. But basically, and I'll do it this way. I'll just show you the names of this file. So the way this works is I added all the COVID stuff on the back half. So these are all those same, like the last 80 or so variables are all the same COVID variables that I just showed you in the COVID file. They just got appended to the data set. And then I'm gonna verify this, but the way this should be set up is the first 100 or so variables should be the 2020 rankings, okay, for those 1,000 firms, and then you should get into the 2019 rankings for the next 100 or so variables, and then it should be, I'm not sure exactly why I have this, why this is, one of my grad students was working on this with me, so I'm not sure why this came up as 2020 underscore 2018. Presumably this next 100 or so variables is the 2018 ranking. So you got the 2020, the first third, 2019, and then 2018, and then you got the COVID data. So for a lot of firms, this COVID data should be blank in the JC rankings file, because data frame, and that's because. So if we scroll all the way over, a lot of these should be missing, and that's because they're not that. Anybody with missing is just part of the 1,000, but not part of the top 300, right? So if we added an employee size, an employer size variable or a company firm size variable, and then sorted by it, we should have no missing for the first 300 on all those COVID data. So that's a little bit about the Just Capital data, and I'll have to rename these to read in the right Rape Impact files. But what I wanted to say was, you can see I've saved like basically several different CSV files that all start with Ravenpack. And that's because I sort of did this search a couple of different ways. So, I'll just show you here. If we go to Ravenpack and we go to data sets, so when I search this, I've got all these functions that I've calculated that are basically allowing me to calculate, as you can see, daily functions or daily averages by company. But you can see here that originally I ran these as coronavirus or COVID-19, and I used basically our 1,000 firms that Ravenpack had. So what this would return is for any given time frame, we're going to get articles at the daily level, basically media coverage at the daily level with these functions on all these companies, where the company had to, this being set at 95 basically is sort of a imperfect way to ensure or try to ensure that the article, the media being included in these functions was actually about these firms. So 95 meaning this firm had to be very relevant to any articles included, okay? So then also the headline had to contain either coronavirus or COVID-19, because when I was originally running this, I was doing this for our COVID data file. Now if I go back over to, just to show you, if I go back over to the RStudio file, you'll see that the size of these files varies. So I got one more file to add to this, but there's basically 3 files, and I'll see if I had already downloaded. Okay, I need to go add that last file. Which I should have. Okay, I'll have to just probably just generate one more file. But basically we have 3 files here. And it looks like 5, and I said I'm going to add one more, so there's actually 6. But there's 3 different files and 2 versions of it, so that would be our 6 files. And I've similar versions. I've just added 001 to the end, or 002 to the end, or 003. And the second 003 file is missing, so I'll add that. And how I've differentiated it is I've added the word COVID. So that same search that I just showed you in Ravenpack, I reran that search without the word coronavirus or COVID-19, so that we also have rankings file that have nothing to do with, Ravenpack file that has nothing to do with COVID. So we have the biggest files are going to be called 003, and that's at the media level. So that's going to be like individual articles on all firms in 2020 related to COVID. Then there's going to be a media level file on all firms without the COVID in the heading for 2020. And specifically, that's from March 1st, 2020 to December 23rd, 2020. And then these are the more general files, and they're all at the daily level. So the 001s and the 002s are all at the daily level. I have a version with the COVID heading and without the COVID heading. And I have daily level all firms for 2020 with the COVID heading, daily level data for all firms in 2020 without the COVID heading. And then the 002 files are all the years. So that's the search from January 1, 2017 all the way to, I guess it would have been yesterday, January 19th, 2021. And that's at the daily level, all the 1,000 firms with and without the COVID heading. So that's probably, the COVID is probably irrelevant because it didn't happen until 2020, right? And this is data on all the years. So it's like 2017, 2018, 2019. But that's just because I forgot to remove the heading. But I just left the file in there, but we can just sort, that one's probably just going to get disregarded, right? But so this would be the more interesting or more generalizable one is all years, no COVID heading, all firms, daily level. So that's 2017 through 2021, at least current 2021, and on all the firms. So, and basically what we're going to see is if I just I'll just add a test file. And I'll do Raven Pack. I'll do the all years daily on all firms. And then I'll do 002.csv. That's probably going to take a minute. These things are going to take a minute because it's got to read in and put in memory, in our memory. It's one of the downsides of art when you're working with really big data sets is that it works from objects in memory. I'm still trying to figure out how to work with some of these bigger files to avoid this problem, but it's loaded. And if we wanted to view that, we could. And then you could see exactly what's included. And NA is going to mean on this day, on 1/2/17, Acadia Pharmaceuticals didn't have media coverage. So there was no record for that. Okay. So we can just, omit those or whatever. But I just wanted to show you what this is ultimately going to look like. Now, there's only 18 columns because it's only outputting at the daily level those functions that I calculated. So I basically took all of those columns, and you might remember talking about these a while back. I took all of their metrics, averaged them to the daily level by firm, and this represents that day. Now, I can write a function. Once I get all the data in here and make sure it's right, I can write a function, a very simple function or piece of code to omit all these, and a very simple piece of code to average these by whatever period we wanted to. So if we wanted to say, instead of a daily level, let's look at a yearly level because we have yearly rankings, then I can do that no problem and be very quick. So anyways, I would just want, now that you kind of have, I think you have RStudio and R downloaded, I just wanted to show you what each of these CSV files are in case you want to go poke around and look at anything. But that's what these 18 metrics are. Again, those are the levels that they reside at, and that's what all these firms represent. So for the COVID study, we get this back to firm year level, and we can use previous years as predictors, and we can also look at these 0, 1 variables of did they do some practice, did they increase wages, did they increase their overtime rate, give bonuses, whatever, did they furlough people, and we can tie all back to these 300 firms. So anyways, I'll shut the video off. That's just wanted to show you a brief overview of what these are really about.